Hi everybody, my name is Larsen. A thing that I probably never get tired of is checking out Bebop and especially Charlie Parker lines, because they're so incredibly good, and at the same time the material that's used is really quite simple. So it's just going to be like basic scales and arpeggios most of the time, and there's no alter scale or diminish scale and all the other things that by now we kind of take for granted. In this video I'm going to go over 3 2-5-1 licks that I took from a Charlie Parker solo on the song Cherokee. And I'm going to focus mostly on how he's sort of placing the different things in the bar and how he's managing to make interesting lines that doesn't sound like he's just running up and down the scale using a lot of large intervals, but still avoiding sounding like he's some sort of intervallic exercise or something like that. So it really sounds like just a good melody. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, improve the way that you solo, check out some interesting arpeggios or chord voicings, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. So what I think you can take away from this video, I mean, of course you can learn the licks and check them out and try and get those into your playing, and that's a good idea. At the same time, you can also just look at some of the devices that he's using and seeing if you can start using that when you're coming up with your own licks. At least that's probably how I would work with this, and that is how I work with this, because I'll take a small bit of a lick and then I'll see if I can write other licks with it and try and use it in that way. My other video on Parker licks actually talks about this and also makes a few variations on some other lines that I'm talking about. This first 2-5-1 lick is actually not really a part of the solo, because this is something that Parker's playing in the theme. So this is what he plays at the end of the second A before he goes to the bridge. And it starts on the C7, just before that final cadence, with a high C. So what does Parker play on a C7? He plays a high C. And then he goes into a C minor 7 arpeggio, and he actually starts that already in the C7 bar. So that's an a B flat, sorry. And then just a descending C minor 7 arpeggio. And then up to the D, back to the C. And then a small sort of chromatic movement from F to E flat. And then an E flat major triad descending. Skipping up to D, so major 7 up to B flat, down to B flat, and then this is then sort of moved down a half step, so D flat, A, and then he's turning that into sort of a descending F7 sharp 5 arpeggio, and then resolving that on the B flat major 7, on the 1 with the D, and then from here he plays an ascending D minor 7 arpeggio, and then just tags that with this phrase where he's using the last two notes of the D minor 7 arpeggio to encircle the root, skipping up to the 5th. So the thing that I think you should check out from this is, of course, there are some things with how he's moving parts of phrases, but I think the thing that I find most sort of intriguing that he gets away with, that sounds really cool also, is that he's playing these descending arpeggios, but they're not placed the way we normally place arpeggios. They're going to be sort of on the heavy beats, so they're going to be starting on the 1 and on the 3, and he puts it on the 2 and on the 4. Actually he puts it only on the 4, I think. Yeah, so the first one's on the 4, and then the next one also on the 4, but coming out on the 2, and then skipping up to do this part. So really, this becomes an E flat major 7 arpeggio, and then we get this really cool idea with having the D and the B flat, and then move those down. And actually, the F7 doesn't really come into play until bar 3 of that bar, where it's then clearly sort of F7 flat 13. As you can see, I've chosen to just write out the 2-5-1 licks in the key that they are in, and not in the key of Cherokee, even though of course I took them out of Cherokee, because they're clearly all of them 2-5-1 licks, and if you want to use them, if you want to think about them, you should probably think about them from the key that they're resolving to, rather than think of them as being in B flat. And that means that this next one I've written out as a 2-5-1 in E flat, which is of course just the 4th degree in B flat, but it makes a little bit more sense when we're looking at it as a 2-5-1 lick as being just in E flat. And the last one as well, because that would also get really strange if I didn't do it like that. This one starts off really simply because there's a pickup that I didn't include, and then he just comes out on the root, on the F minor, and from there he moves up. Finally, just before the B flat 7 up to a G, and then up to an A flat on the B flat 7. So we have this sound here, and from the A flat he skips down to a C, so like a descending 6 interval, and then chromatically down to the B flat, and then he's skipping up again to an F, and from the F he's playing a descending first inversion F minor 7 arpeggio, so root 7, 5th, 3rd, and then the thing I find kind of surprising here that works, and also that he does that at all, actually, is that he plays the descending arpeggio here, skips up to a high B flat, and then just a descending B flat major 7 or B flat major triad. And of course, I'm not sure if this is like a horn. If there's somebody who's a saxophone player, or at least who knows the range of an alto saxophone, maybe they can explain this. Because if I played the resolution down here, that would make just a lot more sense as a resolution. But he actually skips, so there's an octave displacement all the way up to a B flat here. And it's a strange place to do it, but it works really well. So I thought that was a really nice idea to check out. So that's one thing. The other thing is just this whole idea of playing almost nothing on the 2, and then this line, which is also really great because it actually is a whole octave in range, but the way that it is sort of placed, that it's skipping first a lot down, so, and then skips up again to descend further. And I think that's something to mess around with and see if you can come up with ways of doing similar things, where you have a large interval skip here, some stepwise movement, then skip up and go even further down. I think that's a nice sort of melodic idea. And then of course on guitar you can choose to resolve to the lower octave if you want to as well. That will work. Or skip up and do the higher one like Parker is doing. The main reason that I can keep on publishing videos every week is that I have a small community of people supporting the channel over on Patreon. I'm very grateful for that, and if you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. That's the link in the description. And if you join us over on Patreon, then I can maybe also give you something in return for your support. This third example is coming out of the Bridge of Cherokee, and it's a fairly straightforward 2-5-1 in the key of G major. The first part, so on the 2 chord on the A minor, is really just an A minor 7 arpeggio with an added scale note in between. So he starts on the 7th with the G here, and then down the arpeggio, adding the B, so the scale note, and then further down the arpeggio. Then we are on the D7, and here on the F sharp, the 3rd, really just clearly spelling out the changes. He starts with diminished arpeggios on F sharp diminished arpeggio, which really of course is D7 flat 9, so down to the D, and then skipping down to an F sharp, so the 3rd again, up to a G, and then up to the 7th, which is a C, and then he resolves that on the G major 7 to the B, so really just putting the B on the 1 here. So that's really just sort of very clear in terms of how he's putting the important chord tones on the heavy beats of the bar. So we really get the F sharp on the 1 in the D7, and really also the B on the 1 on the G major 7. And then down an E minor triad, then a chromatic passing E flat down to D, and then further down the scale, and then we get down to the C, and then from the B he plays an ascending B minor arpeggio, but he adds a G in between. So, and this is again one of those where the same as what he did in the first line. So we have this arpeggio movement that is started on the 4 and is sort of going into the next bar. So in that way, he's kind of making a little bit obscure, or he's disguising where the heavy beats are within the line, which he doesn't do that in the beginning of this line, but that's also what he does in the first example. And that is a nice effect to have, and that's actually something that's worthwhile checking out to see if you can get away with, or getting used to, putting the arpeggios in other places and not starting them on 1 and 3 all the time, because it can actually open up the sound of your melodies quite a lot if you start working like that. If you want to check out another video where I'm not only going over a Charlie Parker line, but also talking about how you can use that material to construct your own lines, then check out this video. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, and this is the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. These are the kind of videos that I publish every week. And of course, if you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next week.